Good evening, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is Chalk Talk Between the Lines with Beam 'em Up, Scotty Webb. Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. Just 2 days before June 1st, I was looking at the number of games that the Major League players have already played. We're at the third of the season. Next week at this time, there'll be about 100 games left. For some teams, they might be out of wood already, like the Oakland A's. But some other teams getting hot, some other teams that were hot coming back to the pack. The American League East, you go, other than the Rays in first, you go to second to last and vice versa. A lot of things going on here in the MLB. And as always, shout out to Connor. Good evening, Connor. Great to see you. But blessed and honored to have a good friend, colleague, someone that's been with me almost since the start. And we are right there. We're on the cusp of a few big things to break, hopefully sooner than later. But tonight, we're going to talk some MLB. Some games that have just started, some games that are about to start, some games that are in the left coast, just to get the feel for where Scotty is and what he is seeing in the first third of the season and what he expects moving forward. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Scott E. Webb. Good evening, sir.
Well, good afternoon. Well, good evening, Jeff. How are you? I guess it's not afternoon anymore, is it? No, well, look outside and it's still sunny, so I always think it's afternoon and the sun's out.
Sun's out, guns out, but when you're stuck in a studio all day, you know, the sun, I can see it through the windows. How's that sound?
Well, yeah, a bit. Well, it is what it is. I mean, the weather's the weather. The things are always going to be something you got to battle, whether you don't feel well, your knee hurts, your elbow hurts, your head hurts, or the sun comes out. Whatever, you just battle whatever you battle. That's what we do. We battle everything every day, all the time.
You know, it's funny. I going back in my head up here. We were talking preseason Cactus League. We were talking World Baseball Classic. And now you look today, and we're almost a third away of the season. Took last week off, so it's been a couple weeks since you and I and the rest of the people have talked baseball. So give us the Scotty Webb report. What's transpired the last couple weeks, what you've seen for the first third, and what you see moving forward.
Well, I think this baseball season is I don't want to call it cut and dried yet because it's not quite like that, but there's some good teams. There's some really good teams, and there's a lot of bad teams. So, and the bad teams, they're not going to compete. So in our world, gambling world, investing world, you're gonna see big numbers. So we have to really figure out how to play these games. So our job is this summer is pretty tough. Now, having said all that stuff, just look at some of the standings and some of these teams. Like the American League East. After 50 some games, and they play 162, so nearly a third of the games. Every team is over 500, and if you put every team in the American League Central, they'd all be the winners. They'd all be ahead. They'd be ahead of every team in the American League Central. So then if you really want to do that, you can do that to the National League Central too. So you start thinking about, well, shit, that's 10 teams. The American League East is better than all 10 of those teams. So how good are teams like the Boston Red Sox? So the Boston Red Sox, if they were in the American League Central, would be in the lead. And if they were in the National League Central, they'd be in the lead. So when you're sitting here looking for value all summer, it's not on the Red Sox. It's on anybody that's in the middle of the pack in those divisions because nobody's running away with anything. So if you really look at the American League Central or the National League Central, where the teams aren't very good, if you want to call the whole division that way, there's some value to be had if you really wanted to look through there and find some teams to kind of look at. Who would have thought right now Detroit's going to be number 2? I like Detroit, but I don't like them that well. I don't like them tonight. I know everybody and their brother's betting on Faedo tonight, but I wasn't going to. So it's one of those where the Pittsburgh Pirates have been a great story, but Jeff, they're not going to be there in the end. So do you bet on the Cardinals now? I mean, is this the time to take a chance with the Cardinals? I don't know. I can tell you that's where your money value is going to be. It's not going to be like going to say, okay, well, the San Diego Padres are going to wake up. I'm going to go bet them now. Don't do that, because that's not good. You'd do better betting on Arizona than you would on like San Diego. So you just have to be careful as to kind of what you're doing and where you're at, and figure out sort of what value looks like, and who has a chance to win versus who doesn't. I remember a couple of weeks back I was on and I talked about just making things simple. Just get back to who's going to win the game. Well, theoretically, it's kind of like that when you're thinking about these divisions. Who's just going to get there? Who's going to win enough to get there to win their division? Like the Braves, I don't think are going to lose. So, but what about the Mets? Are the Mets going to be a team that runs with the Braves, or are they going to be a team that runs with like the Phillies? Are they going to be a team that tries to make it through the wild card? Are the Phillies ever going to get to where they need to go? Because they've been having such a up and down and can't get out of their own way kind of season. The Padres can't score any runs, and then they go out there with the pitching staff they got, and they can't pitch either. So I don't know. I'm gonna say something offensive, but I think that these guys just don't play baseball. They play me ball. Some of these teams, some of these players on these teams, and maybe it's because of the culture that they grew up with, and maybe it's whatever the influence that they have. They go out and doesn't matter what the guy did before them. They don't compile at bat on top of at bat on top of at bat, and then all of a sudden you got to run. They go out there, a guy gets on base, they're still trying to hit bad pitches, and they swing it bullshit, and they make outs. So maybe it's their pressing, maybe it's they're doing this and trying to do too much. I don't know the answer to that question because I'm not in the dugout. But I will say that these guys get paid a lot of money to not feel that kind of pressure. And coaches get paid a lot of money to actually manage and coach these guys and have conversations with them. And if they can't get them to swing at strikes, they're not going to hit the ball. And if you watch Padres and Phillies games, that's all they do is swing at balls, and they don't swing at strikes. It's the most ridiculous thing. Hey, TJ, it's the most ridiculous thing that I think I've seen in a long time. Major League Baseball players are swinging at things that are just retarded to swing at, and it's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
And shout out to TJ as he's bringing up no runs. He's bringing up the bases loaded, and I just said the bases loaded Blues. TJ's been with the ECSI VIP team for a long time now, and I tell you what, Scotty, I think we lead the world in bases loaded, no outs, 1 outs, 2 outs, and no runs, and TJ can attest to that. And it's comical.
So how does a team like? Let's go pull this up for a second.
So, and by the way, your theory, every 2 hits is a run. We had the over in the first 5, Kansas City and St. Louis yesterday. And before the 5th inning, Kansas City had 1 run and 9 hits. How can you do that? Please explain that to me.
That's how it's done. They don't stack things up. So I'm looking at this Detroit game right now with Texas, right? So here's the Detroit lineup. Okay, you got Short that's playing second base, Baez playing shortstop, Riley Green's playing center field, Torkelson's playing first base, Haas is playing left field, Shoop's playing third base, Miguel Cabrera is playing DH, Nevin's in right field, and Rogers is the catcher. So Short's batting 270 and Green's batting 296. Jeff, there ain't not one other player on that team batting more than 235 in this lineup.
Well,
Go ahead.
I have to give compliments where it's due. Mr. Sean Alvarez, Mr. Smooth, who will be on with ECSI next weekend for the Belmont, says, I've heard great things about Mr. Webb via Mr. Merges. Mr. Merges out in Las Vegas for the weekend with Sean, with a few other of our friends and colleagues there. And thank you, Sean. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you enjoyed your 40th birthday celebration. It
40?
looked like it
Man,
looked
I wish
like
I was 40 again.
It looked like a great time. As there was a handful of good friends at Circa at the pool on Saturday. We were jealous, Sean. So apologies for intervening, Mr. Webb.
That's no problem. So my point to you is this: you got a lineup and a team that is throwing guys out there. Well, in this game so far, the Rangers have 2 hits and 1 run, and the Detroit has 0 hits and 1 run. So how does that happen? Well, they compile on top of each other and they play like a group, right? They play like a team. So what my point is, superstars don't win baseball games. Sure that Aaron Judge yesterday hit 2 home runs and a double and he robbed a home run and whatever. But if you don't compile batters on top of batters and you don't, so here's a good thing. So one of the things that I like to look at is if you go to Fangraphs and you go to the last 7 days, not like the whole season and all that stuff, last 7 days, and you look at players and then sort them into teams. So for example, you can do that in any team. I've already got it pulled up, whatever. Here's the Cincinnati Reds just because I have them right here. So in the last 7 days, the Cincinnati Reds. So Matt McClain, the new kid who's been playing like crazy for that team, his offensive WAR in the last 7 days is 6. TJ Friedel, 4.7. Kevin Newman, 4.6. Stuart Fairchild, 3.5. Spencer Steele, 3.8. Jonathan India, 1.3. Holy cow, that's 6 out of 9 guys. They're roughing up the ball. In 7 days, you got to over 1 WAR. That's pretty good in offense. They only have 1, 2. They got 3 guys in negative. So you match that up and you look at it and you go, well, that's why the Reds can win, is because they got guys that are actually doing stuff right now. And then if you go look at teams like, I'll just pull them up, the Chicago Cubs tonight. The Chicago Cubs, in that same story, they have Seiya Suzuki at 1.1 WAR. One guy in the whole team at 1.1 WAR. So do you think they can hit? I think not. And that's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for those cluster players that are hitting the ball all at the same time, and you want to bet on that team. And then find the ones that are bad, like in this case, the Cubs, and they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in negative minus WAR of 1. Those guys are clustered together in the negative side. So they're not going to hit. They're not going to score. So this look at games in a 7-day period is way better than taking a look at this stuff on the course of a season, unless you're making season-long bets. So I think what I'm trying to tell people just in this conversation is look at things in the short term, find hot pitchers, find hot hitters, hot hitting teams, and then ride your streaks, right? I mean, I was looking at the Mets tonight, for example, because I like the Mets tonight. I like Senga, and one of the numbers that I like to use, and I call it a situational spot, is when I don't care about what their one-loss record is as the individuals. I do care what their one-loss record is as a team. So when that guy goes out there and pitches, what does a team do? So Kodai Senga has people are like, well, he hasn't pitched real good lately. Well, he probably hasn't. I mean, I'm looking at his numbers. They're not, he pitched 4 games, 22 innings, 19 hits, 13 walks. That's not very good. So, but in his season so far, he's made 9 starts. The Mets are 6-3 in his starts. He wins games. So he puts his team in a position to win. So you want to bet him. The only reason I didn't bet him tonight is because Suarez is a lefty, and the Mets record against left-handers so far. Let me go over there. The Mets record against left-handers. Let me get down here. The Mets, where'd you go? Is 7-14, Jeff. They played 21 games against left-handed pitchers, and they've only won 7 times. So that turns me off of that bet. But Senga, I think, is going to pitch pretty good tonight. Faedo, I didn't think was going to pitch good tonight. And the reason I didn't think he was going to pitch tonight is because there's his batting average against. He's only pitched 4 games, but over his 4 games, it's 185. So nobody's hitting him. But his BABIP, batting average and balls in play, is 170. Holy shit, Jeff, that's lower than his batting average. So what does that tell you? That means every single ball that's been hit off of his bat's been hit at somebody. They've been hit to a fielder. Well, that stuff averages out, and I don't necessarily think tonight's a good night for Faedo. Now, I don't like Perez either. So I was going to play this game to the over, but I decided just not to play it. But anyway, that would be my thoughts.
Shout out to Marty. What is up, Marty? Roll Tide, roll Tide. Milwaukee with a quick 2 spot in the first against Kikuchi. 1-1 Texas, Detroit, top 3. Looks like zeros all across the board from there. Marty's got a question before we let you dive into tonight's board. Wants to know what is up with the Cardinals. Seems like they're playing well below what they should be.
Well, I'm gonna start off this by saying, do you remember what happened to the White Sox last year? The White Sox were misrun, mismanaged, and misled from the dugout. I don't even remember his name now, but the manager fell asleep. Yes, La Russa fell asleep in the dugout, didn't have control of the team. The players didn't like him. Well, guess what's going on in St. Louis right now? They don't like Marmol either. That Marmol is not good. And if you remember back to when the season started, and you know who everybody was picking to be the National League Rookie of the Year was his name Walker, right? And his name Walker.
Jordan Walker.
Name? Yeah, Jordan Walker, right? Everybody wanted Jordan. Jordan Walker's going to be the guy. He's doing this. He's got he had like 10 straight games where he got a base hit or got on base or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden they sent him down because he can't hit a curveball or he can't do this or he can't do that. And now reports are that he's claiming that he's all messed up because of how he's been treated and managed, and nobody likes, And then they have 2 years ago, they have a guy named O'Neill that plays the outfield. I think he hit like 50 home runs 2 years ago, whatever it was. Yeah, he hit like 75 million home runs. What's he doing now? He don't even want to play now because of Marmol and how that dugout situation was and what was going on there. He got taken out of a game, or he was told he was not sprinting or not doing this or whatever. So they pulled him out of a game, and then he fought that or whatever, didn't think that was the right thing. And then they had a public dispute over all of that stuff. And then the other thing I'll tell you is if you're the St. Louis Cardinals and you're playing in the National League Central, you're not really going to be battling teams that if I look at them real quick, if you go in there, there's one team, the Milwaukee Brewers, who have starting pitching. The Pirates kind of have starting pitching. They got an ace now. The one kid he's just doing super well. And then Cincinnati, they got a couple of guys that can pitch. And the Cubs, they got a couple of guys that can pitch. What do the Cardinals got? You're going to tell me that you're going to throw Michaelis out there and be able to be competitive against some of these teams? I don't think you can. So, and Wainwright certainly not, and Flaherty certainly not. So they have a bullpen that's really good, and I think going to be overused. And I think that if their offense can't get out of its own way, they're not gonna win games. I think that the St. Louis Cardinals are a team that stacks up better than any of the other teams in the National League Central because they have the best offense in the league. And because they have the best offense in the league, that makes them head and shoulders better than Milwaukee. It makes them better than the Cubs. It makes them better than the Pirates, and it makes them better than the Reds. But if they don't play that way, then that's not on per se the offense or the chemistry or all that stuff. It's on the manager and the players to kind of stockpile hits again on top of each other, right? I mean, the way I see this is that they don't have a true leadoff hitter. They struggle with who's going to be the leadoff guy. And then I don't know how their batting order really constructs with having Goldschmidt bat second all the time. And I'm not sure that he's the right guy for that. Now, I'm not saying he's not, but my opinion is he strikes out too much to be the second hitter. Now you can say, okay, well, Judge is the second hitter on the Yankees and he strikes out all the time. Well, I suppose so, but I think that the way I see this is I don't think Nootbaar is the answer to that team. And if you're telling me Nootbaar is a better player than O'Neill and Walker and all that stuff, I think that you're reading into the tea leaves too much. You got to really look at these guys and what they're capable of doing. And I get it. O'Neill hasn't played well and he struck out and he's done some stuff and all of those things. But if Nolan Gorman hasn't played the way Nolan Gorman has, he's been pretty good for them. He's not been good for them over the last 7 days, but he's been pretty good for them. Brendan Donovan's kind of that same kind of guy. He's been pretty good. He's been bad, hot and cold streaks. That's the way offense goes. And they butchered that stupid catching situation with Wilson Contreras. I mean, that's just a joke. Okay, we're not going to let him catch anymore. We're going to put him in as a DH because he can't call balls and strikes. Are you kidding me, man? So these are professional baseball players. They make millions of dollars, and they came out and said, well, Wilson Contreras has never been talked to like this before, and blah blah blah. Okay, well, if I was him, I would have said, stick it right up your ass. But that's just kind of the way things are. I think that the reason the St. Louis Cardinals aren't winning is because they got a guy that's creating trouble and turmoil in the dugout. That's my opinion.
We got a board that's already started. 2-0 Baltimore, bottom of the first now. And that's the only update and change as we speak. Toronto's got one across in the bottom. They're still batting. Now 3-1 Detroit, bottom of the third. You want to go over tonight's games, where your leans were, what you got, what you see on the nightcap?
Well, I think that Cincinnati-Boston game's an interesting game in a sense that I think Bello's been really good. He's been consistent. He pitches very well. He's got good metrics right now. I mean, he's got a 3.61 xFIP number, 3.68 Sierra number. What I really like is the idea, though, that he's a ground ball guy. So he's got 59% ground ball rate. Now, your ground ball pitchers don't mean they're automatic winning pitchers, but it does mean that they limit damage most of the time. And your fly ball pitchers can get hit and get roughed up pretty quick. So you want to watch kind of a little bit about what that ratio looks like. He's at 59.5%. That's really a high number. Anything at 50 is pretty good. Your best of the best is like Framber Valdez. He's at 65%, which is an unheard of number. And Marcus Stroman is really good at throwing ground balls. So those guys. So it doesn't. What that does is it limits the amount of hard hit damage that you have to worry about. So for example, if Bello has a really high hard hit rate, it doesn't matter because they're hit on the ground, and a lot of times it'll go for a single instead of going for a double if it's hit in the air, or even worse, a home run or something. So I like Bello. I think he's doing well. I think Lively. Now I don't know if people really know who Ben Lively is, but Ben Lively pitched in the KBO, and he's not like this young guy that's come up and is this stellar pitcher that no one's ever heard of before. He's been around the block a while. I would say he's a soft tosser, even I would call him. He might throw 90 miles an hour, but that's a soft tosser. But he's going to rely on his defense, and he's made 2 starts so far, and in those 2 starts he's given up a BABIP number of 174. That means that almost every single ball that's been put in play has been hit to a fielder. So I'm looking at this game going, hey, Boston's probably the right side here. The only trouble that I run into when I say that is Boston's offense hasn't been real good as of late, and Cincinnati's has been. So I stayed off of this game, but I think Bello's probably the right side here. I already talked a little bit about the Philadelphia game. I think that Senga's the right side in that spot. And I think that, Philadelphia is a team kind of like I look at Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a team I bet on, but only when they're hot hitting. I don't bet on them any other time because, you got to score runs to win these games. And if you can't score enough, you're not going to win enough, even though they're sexy looking. You put Burns out there on the mound, and boy, don't they look sexy. Well, if he shuts them down and the other team scores 3 runs and Milwaukee only scores 2, well, you lose. And that's why I say, you got to kind of be careful with some of these teams. The Kansas City Royals St. Louis game tonight kind of is an intriguing matchup for me because Greinke hasn't been good, but he's been good in his last few starts. In his last few starts, he's got a game score average of 58 over his last 3 starts. He's done well typically against St. Louis. Michaelis had a really good start his last time out, so that typically doesn't necessarily bode well for him having a great start this time out. I just don't trust Kansas City to score enough runs to bet on him. But I think Greinke kind of does what Greinke does. He throws the ball at 80, 90 miles an hour, and he hits his spots. And, if St. Louis is in that spot where they're not building at-bats off of at-bats, they're going to try to hit balls that are on the outside part of the plate. They're going to try to drive them and do whatever. How you doing, Billy? And they're going to try to drive those guys. And then what will end up happening is they'll roll over on those pitches, and they're going to get ground balls at shortstop. Easy ground balls, right? Throw them out. So we'll see how that game turns out. Now I did play this game because I'm kind of at a spot here where I think that the Rays played the Chicago Cubs today, and the Rays, what was that game? 1-0 yesterday. And Hendricks is on the mound today in his second start, and Hendricks is just like your Greinke. He's going to be a guy that throws the ball in his spots, and if he doesn't throw him there, he's going to get hit. Well, I trust in the Rays. I've seen enough of the Rays at this point that their offense is pretty good. When I looked at how many cluster players they have in the lineup that are hitting today, they got like 6 guys out of 9 guys that are roughing the ball up. And the Cubs have 1, Seiya Suzuki. And the other thing that's kind of interesting to me is the Cubs haven't been the best home team. I think they're only one game over 500. They might even be one game under 500, and they're facing McClanahan tonight. So, and it's not that McClanahan is the best pitcher in baseball, but boy, what there's one number that stands out, and it's the win probability number. It's called win probability added, and that specific metric measures what happens when a pitcher finds himself sort of in trouble. You got guys on base and the stuff he does to get out of these spots and not give up and not give up and do these things and get these outs. So I tend to think that he's going to handle them tonight, and they didn't score yesterday, so I got him on the run line. I see Brandon here talking about the Rays being a regression and that their winning percentage isn't sustainable. He bet Houston to win the American League today at plus 360. Now I will say this: I don't expect the Rays to be at 700. But what if I said this, that when I look at where's my numbers at here, because I do this every single day, and they're adjusted every day. My number on the Rays, I think, is 97 wins. I think. Where is it? It is 96. I got the Rays at 96 wins right now. 96 wins is a 5.93 winning percentage. I've got the Astros at 91%. So that doesn't necessarily mean when they played in the playoffs that Houston couldn't win or that or whatever. I think Houston's a different team now that Altuve's back. But I will say this: if Bregman doesn't start hitting for Houston, you can tell me all you want to about Houston, but if you're going to only count on two guys to get it done with Tucker and Alvarez, you're not going to beat the Rays. You're just not. So you don't have enough pitching. So I get it. Valdez has been pretty good, but Valdez is not necessarily a guy that's going to go strike out everybody. They're going to put balls in play. And Christian Javier has been pretty good. But I you can say what you want, and I don't mind it. They got the track record. They can be there, and I don't mind the bet. Plus 360 is a pretty good bet, especially if you're going to go bet on the Rays now. That would be crazy because of where they were. But I bet if you bet them at the beginning of the season, you'd have got a pretty good number on the Rays. So anyway, getting back to today's card, I think that some of the other stuff that we can look at regarding the numbers and some of these games. Let me get back to my pictures. There we are. That brings me to the Minnesota-Houston game, by the way. So here's what I think that you'll see, and I think you might be right there, Brandon, that Houston might add a starter at the deadline because they're going to need one. McCullers needs to come back, but McCullers needs to be good when he comes back. You got tonight, Blielak's going to pitch, and he's how do I say this the right way? He's a guy that is serviceable as a spot starter, but he's had to make, and now he's made how many starts? Where's he at? 1, 2, 3. He's made 4 starts in a row. All except for one have been subpar, and now he's going to face Minnesota. Minnesota is the team that leads the American League Central. Not that they hit that well, but they got some juice coming up. Royce is back, and he's made a big impression on Minnesota the first night back anyway. So see how that goes. But I think people are sleeping on Joe Ryan a little bit. Joe Ryan, according to when you look at some of the things that Fangraphs puts out and some of the projections, I looked at it for the rest of the season. So Zips has Joe Ryan as the number 6 pitcher in baseball, not in the American League, in baseball. So you have Joe Ryan in that spot, and then Steamer has him at number 10. So Joe Ryan's one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. So if that's the case, and you're going to put him up against Houston tonight, my number has Minnesota actually being the favorite, and I think Minnesota's a great play tonight. Now, I didn't bet it, because I don't understand why the money's moving the way it is. But that usually doesn't stop me because I think Joe Ryan pitches pretty well tonight. I think that Minnesota handles business, and I think that Belak gets beat up again. So I think Minnesota wins. I think the next game's an interesting game, and this falls back to that situational trend I was talking, not trend, but spots. So Giolito looks great when you start looking at numbers in terms of a lot of different things. Like he's got a big strikeout rate. He does a lot of good things. He's got soft ground balls. He doesn't get hard hit. So he tends to walk too many, but here's the deal with Giolito. So Giolito, that he has pitched so far 11 games, 11 times. And the White Sox record in those 11 times that he's pitched is 3-8. 3-8. Even though he's been that good, he's 3-8. And if you look at what Tyler Anderson's done, you'd go, God, he's awful. They just don't ever win when he pitches. Well, he's pitched 9 times for the Angels so far. And in those 9 times, the Angels are 6-3. That's pretty good. So he's just the same guy that came over from the Dodgers that was no good when he was with the Dodgers, but they just kept winning games. And that's what he does now when he's with the Angels. They just keep winning games. So when you start to think about this game, I don't, the matchup pitching wise is all dominant by Giolito. By 2 runs, he's dominant by Giolito. So, I mean, his Sierra number is 4.44. The Sierra number for Anderson is 6.38. That's 2 runs. So I think that when you run into this stuff, you got to start thinking about, well, why does this happen? Why does that happen? And, the Angels are holding in. Yeah, they're fighting in that division. And that's a pretty good division right now, other than the than the A's. So the Freeland Gallen game, everybody's jumping on Gallen again like he's the Cy Young, but his last 3 starts have not been good. They have not been good, and I'm going to tell you right now, something's wrong with Gallen. His strikeout rate per 9 innings over his last few starts is where is it? It is 7.45, and he's a double-digit guy. So he's 11, 12, 13. He's a dominant strikeout guy. And he's not there right now. His batting average against is 261. The league average is 248. So he's worse than the league average at batting average. He's got a 330 BABIP number. That means, balls are getting put in play and they're going for hits. Hard hit rates, 41%. 41% is the worst hard hit rate on the board today. It's the worst one. He gets hit, and he gets hit hard. So Gallen is not worth the price. I'm not saying to go take Freeland because Freeland throws glass. You can't break a plane of glass when he throws up there. And Arizona's been, he's scoring some runs. So I think that Gallen's way too high a price for me. I won't play it, but I would tell you to stay off of Gallen until he figures out what he's doing. The next game's interesting because I think everybody and their brother is looking at this going, well, Cortez for the Yankees. Well, Cortez hasn't been very good either. He's kind of like Gallen. He's fallen off a lot. He's got a 5.10 xFIP and a 4.80 Sierra number. That's not very good. And Gilbert's done nothing but just be dynamite. He's high strikeouts, very low walks. 13% swing and miss rate, 1.39 walks per 9 innings. I mean, you got to work to get on base against Gilbert. Now, the Yankees have hit Gilbert in the past. They've had good success against him, and Cortez has done well against Seattle. But Cortez is a better in Yankee Stadium pitcher than he is an away pitcher. And I saw a thing on Twitter. Maybe I can pull it up real quick. I saw a thing on Twitter, and one of them, and it was about this game, and some of this stuff that I see drives me insane, but some of this stuff actually makes sense. This is one of the ones that makes sense. So off of back-to-back games of scoring 10-plus runs, and they're now a dog. So that's what the Yankees are. Since 2017, 56 teams have hit this scenario. And in that role, the team is only 18-38. So they're only 32% wins. They're minus 14 units, basically. So what it's saying is that you're off of two games where you've scored multiple double digits, 10 plus, and now you're an underdog. Well, that's where the Yankees are, right? So why would they be that way if they scored that many runs? Well, usually they're going to probably be on the road and they're going to face a pretty good pitcher. Well, that's exactly what they're going to face tonight. They're going to face a really good pitcher, and they're going to be off of those runs. And Bader's now hurt, so who knows what's going to happen with them? They're counting on. Look, if Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge, it doesn't matter. He's gonna help that team. But if Aaron Judge doesn't hit, and then the team is the team's going to flounder. So they go as Aaron Judge goes, and that's about it for them. And I think that Seattle has gotten an impact now from 44 there, and I think that they're going to do pretty well, and I think they're going to hit Cortez. So I think Seattle's probably a pretty good play tonight. Atlanta got beat by the Oakland A's. The Oakland A's now I think have won 11 games. So as you kind of stretch that out, maybe they win 35, 40 games this year. And then now they're going to play against what's his name? Sears. Now Sears has really been their best pitcher. But I expect the Braves to bounce back and have a pretty good performance today. And to be honest, Elder's probably been the pitcher for the Braves. Everybody talks about Strider and how great Strider is and all that stuff. But I will tell you, if it wasn't been for Elder stepping into these spots and doing what Elder's done, the Braves probably wouldn't have the record that they do today. Elder has pitched now, I think, what is this, his 11th game? This will be his 11th game. He's pitched 10 games. And in those 10 games that the Braves that he's pitched in, he's won 8. They're 8-2 in the games that he's pitched. And for Oakland, well, it's going to kind of be obvious, but Sears has pitched in 10 games. They're 2-8 in the games that he's pitched in. But Elder has as good as numbers as any pitcher tonight. He's got a 3.49 xFIP number, 3.69 Sierra number. His FIP, his actual FIP number is 2.95. He doesn't walk anybody. His batting average against is 239, so it's below league average. He's got a 58% ground ball rate, so they hit the ball into the ground. So I like Elder tonight. I think the Braves come back. I think they do pretty well. I could play him on the run line. I played him on the run line. Pittsburgh plays San Francisco tonight. San Francisco's been mashing the ball. Oviedo is a guy that you can hit. He's very hittable. He's got a 5.45, 5.65 xFIP Sierra tonight. His last 30 and an xWOBA, meaning that the predictive weighted on base percentage is 366. That's really a high number. So he doesn't have the big strikeouts. He's got big walks. So when you put guys on base and you're hittable, I think that you can't bet on them. So you're either going to be on San Francisco or nobody tonight. And then when you got to talk about Washington and the Dodgers, the number's too high. The Dodgers are minus 290 or whatever they are tonight. And Gonsolin is 4.90 xFIP, 4.56 Sierra. What that means is he's not a big strikeout guy. He's got a 7.52 strikeouts per 9 innings, which is actually in the red. Red in my side just means that he's in the bottom third of the league. But he doesn't walk guys, so you got to get on base. In his league, and his batting average against is 149. But remember what I've been talking about. The BABIP number. It's 147. He's one of those guys, again, that the BABIP number at 147 is below the batting average that he allows. So that means every ball that's being hit's been hit to a field. That doesn't happen like that. So what happens is that the balls start to find the holes. Now, I'm not telling you that the Washington's a team that's going to go out there and make that happen tonight, but because their offense isn't that good. But I will say that the number for the Dodgers is too high. You can't go out there and count on Gonsolin to no watch he'll go out and throw a no hitter. But point being is he's one of these guys that he's going to rely on the defense to make outs. So anyway, that's kind of how I look at him. I only made 2 plays tonight. My 2 plays are Tampa Bay on the run line. I played Atlanta on the run line. And I really thought about playing Minnesota, but for whatever reason, I didn't play him. So anyway, that's kind of how I see, tonight's breakdown of the games. And then as you go looking at, some of the next level stuff, it's important to really kind of play out how to do this stuff, because I think that there's so many different metrics and so many different things that you can utilize, and how you mix them up, and then what you look at in terms of riding, in terms of streaks, and then what you look at to try to play opposite of is another thing. So there's a guy on VSiN that's been putting stuff out that he's been playing Steam, right? So the way he classifies Steam is any wager that has gone up 10 points, so is Steam, and he wants to ride with that. So that tells me that he's not necessarily interested in CLV. He's not necessarily getting the best price. But what he is saying is that it's moving in a certain direction, because the sharper money, the bigger money is moving the number, and because he wants to be on that side. Well, I can just say that here's what I'm going to tell everyone is: think things through logically. Does that make sense, or does it not make sense? Because to be honest, no one that I know, unless you're sitting behind the bar or the book, in the ticket window, knows what caliber of player is making these wagers. You're just making the assumptions that you know. And the money that's moving the market is an assumption. And I get it. I'm all good with making those assumptions, because a lot of times those assumptions aren't wrong. But I will say, don't do anything carte blanche blindly. Make it make sense. Like the one we talked about earlier. If you scored 10 runs and now you're a dog and whatever that number was, I think that makes sense. But on the same side of that stuff, you see these guys run that SQDL stuff over and over and over. And I saw one earlier that said, well, after Monday, you throw this out because this pitcher's 3-3 on Monday. He's 17-1 on Tuesday, and blah blah. I'm like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. There's no logic to being 17-1 on Tuesday. It's just an anomaly. So follow the logic, make it make sense, and I think you'll do much better.
I got to thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, I was sitting here in the studio, obviously brought you up top to go over the games and to talk, and my laptop went blue. And here I thought the show got disrupted, but obviously you and everyone else was A-okay, so I can't thank you enough, sir.
Look at us. We're superstars. Woo!
I'm going to do my best. Maybe we'll check Friday. I'll be in Canton for a Sports Map with Pepe co-hosting, but check in with you maybe Thursday. Actually, Thursday is usually a tough night for me, but my point is try to get you on. Are you on Saturdays or Sundays for the weekend this week?
I'm on Saturday this week, so I can work.
So you're off Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay. At worst, what we'll plan on doing is a Sunday morning. We'll go over the Sunday schedule. That's usually a big card there, and see if we can get back to 2 shows at least a week. Before you know it, we'll be getting ready for that pigskin football. I mean, Thursday's June 1st already. Where's it?
Yeah, I do all this baseball stuff, and people don't think I do football, but I do football. We have fun with football too.
I have to shout out. Big night in the studio here. Shout out to Connor. Shout out to TJ. Shout out to Sean Alvarez. Shout out to Marty Lowe. Shout out to Mr. Billy Hewlin. Hug that bride for me, please. Shout out to Brandon. Thank you so much all for joining us. If you're not following Scotty, run on over to Twitter to MLB20. Come over to myself at EC Sports Invest. If you missed any of the show and you want to watch it again, you can go over to YouTube at East Coast Sports Investors. There's 1,000+ shows up there. Just sitting there, great guests from all over Vegas, experts like Scotty, experts in Vegas like Mr. Sharapan. Shout out to Bernie Fratto. Thank you so much, Saturday, for having me on Fox Sports Radio. It was a blast there. Scotty, tell them where they can find all your work, my friend.
Well, you can go to the website. I just haven't been on the website for a little while. You'd be better off to follow me on Twitter. Twitter is at Webby20MLB. My website is www. I always do that. I don't know if I need to do that. I just do that every damn time. MLB-daily.com. And you can follow along some of the stuff there. It's just hard for me to do all this and to keep up with other things and continue to write. Like I do a lot of baseball writing. I do a lot of things about numbers and statistics and data and stuff, so that when I do speak and I do talk, it's not like a different language sometimes, because I sit here and rattle off stuff and I think people understand what I'm talking about. But half the time somebody goes, "What the hell did he just say? I don't know what the heck he's talking about." But anyway, that's kind of how things work.
All righty. Everyone, tomorrow, not sure about the afternoon, but I do know at around 4:30, myself and Riley will be back for the closing bell. There's about 7 MLB games. There is day baseball tomorrow. ECSI VIPs, stay focused there. 6 o'clock, Brady Canning will be on talking about the Memorial, as well as we get a couple weeks closer to the third major on Father's Day weekend and the U.S. Open. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one and only Mr. Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. Thank you, everyone. Amazing show. Ton of people, ton of questions. Thank you. Much appreciated from me and Mr. Webb. So everyone have a great night, and we will see you soon.